Tucker Carlson, what is going on here? What is going on here? This is his take on why Kevin McCarthy's having a difficult time.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson. Tonight, Kevin McCarthy's just lost the 11th round trying to be speaker. And it's funny how we're supposed to feel about this. We're all supposed to be highly upset, outraged.
By the way, this is a new thing that Tucker's been doing for like the last 6 months, is that there's a they out there. It's very rusty, like rusty trombone, if you think about it, Russell Brand. There's a they out there that's telling you how to feel. They're making you feel this way. So if you actually feel that way, you don't actually feel that way. You're being made to feel that way by the they, right? He does it with Ukraine all the fucking time. How you're supposed to feel about this? You're supposed to be outraged, blah blah. That's the same shit. This is now like an opening shtick he does practically every night.
Appalled, on the verge of tears, about the fact that some of his colleagues are trying to make it hard for Kevin McCarthy to become the Speaker of the House. Very upset.
Yeah, he's been doing this for weeks.
But why exactly is it so upsetting?
Well, it isn't. I'm okay.
It should be hard to become Speaker of the House.
Yeah, but you should have done the hard part months ago.
In this country, very hard.
Well, and technically it was. He's been in leadership for like 13 years, and he raised like $250 million, or like, that's the point. It was. He's not a freshman. But here's the hard part. The freshmen and the like tiny hyper red district crowd are trying to dictate to everybody else how they should politic, even though they're in safe seats that aren't going fucking anywhere.
Big job. It's one of the most powerful jobs in the world. It's not one of those positions you give to elderly men who've campaigned from their basement.
No, we give that to the President of the United States because he kicks ass and takes names.
If you want to be the guy who's second in line from the presidency in America...
Third, technically. I mean, the president is first in line.
You got to work for it. And Kevin McCarthy certainly has worked for it this week. Whatever you think of him, you get the feeling...
This week?
McCarthy would crawl naked through a sewer to get this gig.
Look, that's Matt Gaetz's kink, and I don't...
And that's not necessarily an insult, by the way. It's what it...
No, it's also Tucker Carlson's kink.
Takes, obviously. Maybe it's what it should...
Sometimes, yes.
Take.
Yeah, that's how that we'll choose speaker by the using the Shawshank method. What the fuck?
So if you take a deep breath...
by the way, Tucker Carlson thinks everything should be chosen using fear factor standards.
You think about it for a second. Nothing we...
Joe Rogan for speaker, guaranteed. Hashtag he'd do it in a second.
...have seen in Washington recently, the supposedly apocalyptic world-ending drama of politicians arguing with each other, none of it qualifies as especially unusual or even bad. This is what democracy looks like when you get...
No, if it was democracy, then Hakeem Jeffries would have won fucking 12 times already. 13 times. It isn't. It's based on the threshold.
Get up close. I want one thing, you want another thing. We schedule a vote to see who gets it, or in this case, 11 votes. But whatever. How is that a disaster?
Yeah, whatever.
Well, it's not a disaster. It's how the system...
No, this is how it should work. It should be a clusterfuck all the time, because Tucker Carlson wants you to be able, personally, just rando individual, whether you're a citizen or not, to drown the entire U.S. government in a bathtub.
...is supposed to work. But don't tell the moron community that. They're too...
I'm fairly certain Kilmeade can hear you. I know he hangs out in the building after work.
...too overwrought to hear you. Watch.
An epic fail and stunning humiliation for Kevin McCarthy, who took the knee for Donald Trump, then gave away the store to the cuckoo fringe of his party.
You couldn't construct a narrative that combines the elements of extremism, election denialism, and incompetence more perfectly than the last 12 hours on the Republican side in the House.
It's embarrassing, I do, and there's a lot of hard feelings on both sides. Again, you have 90% of the caucus, 90% of the caucus standing firmly behind Kevin McCarthy.
They look petty, I mean, they're putting on a show. I'll call it political porn.
Has decided instead to pull the pin on the grenade and toss it among themselves. What an extraordinary moment of political failure by a political party.
It's either personal against Kevin, or remember that this is the same brain trust that brought you almost 2 years ago, January 6th.
The way that they've gone about trying to achieve these demands has resulted.
Yeah, so far so good. Thanks, Julie. So, and
in essentially this terrorist standoff between them and the overwhelming majority of people in their conference.
Oh, they're so excitable. Are you following this?
Look, we know that Tucker Carlson prides himself on this kind of like Ivy League, I'm rich bitch attitude where I don't have to give a shit about any of this. I will, both Thanos. I don't have to give a shit about any of this. Why should I worry? I'm a millionaire. While the rest of you are eating shit, I'm good.
The failure to make it super easy and simple for Kevin McCarthy is extremism, declares Nicole Wallace. It's just embarrassing, says Ryan Zinke. It's pornography, says another.
Says another. It's political pornography, not actual pornography.
Charlie Sykes got so upset watching the proceedings that he compared a vote in Congress to an exploding hand grenade. There was smoke and fire and shrapnel.
No, the game of like tossing the hand grenade. Hot potato. I love when Tucker's too stupid to get the reference.
And the shrieking,
which is always.
Of the dying calling out for their mothers because some people would not vote for Kevin McCarthy. That's what it was like in there, ladies and gentlemen. Some of us will never recover. Then another one of the buffoons in the clip you just saw went further and called the whole thing terrorism, which is the remorseless use of violence against the civilian population to effect a political goal. So Chip.
Yeah, as an allegory, by the way. How many of you think that at some point we could roll back and find Tucker Carlson referring to like trans rights activists as terrorists and the like? Give me a fucking break.
Roy is Osama.
I love how these assholes like roll up the analogy ladder when it suits them.
Osama bin Laden now, hunt him down in his cave. Dan Crenshaw of Texas, filling the role recently vacated by his friend Adam Kinzinger, said virtually the same thing yesterday. Anyone who doesn't support Kevin McCarthy for Speaker is a terrorist. And Crenshaw's voice seemed to crack with emotion as he said he meant it. What's going on here exactly?
Do you want me to describe emotions, or I know you don't have any. Is that the problem? It's the problem, isn't it? He isn't. It's hard for, like, it must be difficult to wake up one morning and realize you're an NPC and you're one of stature. So you're like, I can't be an NPC. I have all this stuff.
Why are these people so upset? Well, part of it, of course, is political. Dan Crenshaw is a committed neoliberal. He's a tool of his donors. He's hawkish on Ukraine's borders, but in different 2 hours. And Dan Crenshaw knows that Kevin McCarthy is the leader.
Yeah, by the way, 90% of the Republicans apparently don't give a fuck about the border right now, according to Tucker Carlson. Just like if they think the vote for McCarthy needs to move forward and they're ready to do it and they think it's time, that's also an attack on the border, leaving it wide open or some shit.
Least conservative speaker he is likely to get ever. And they all think that. Watch one of them make the case.
There is this widespread myth among many of my conservative brethren that being electable makes you more moderate, that being electable makes you part of the establishment. There is no frickin' establishment. If there was an establishment, this wouldn't be happening. Kevin McCarthy would.
Right. This goes to the whole, like, America's imperialist. Well, no, it isn't. Or we would own Japan and Germany.
Be, by almost any objective measure, one of the 2 or 3 most
and South Korea, by the way.
Conservative Republican speakers in U.S. history, at least for the last 100 years. Paul Ryan was the most conservative speaker. This idea that being part of the establishment makes you a rhino squish loser is this
is fun. It's fun. It's fun. It's not true, but it's fun, and it fucks up their plans, so I'm fine with it. Yeah, it doesn't have to be true. They can fuck with each other all they want.
To see that these guys are getting high on their own farts and like Fox green rooms on.
Hey, it's nice to know people are watching my show. Hi, Jonah.
It's nonsense.
You know what? Scolds the moron. Kevin McCarthy is conservative enough for you. So shut up and accept him, or else we're going to call you names. Okay, tough guy, settle down.
By the way, this is, in case you don't follow Tuckums, this is him being a alpha male. Yeah. This is him being macho. You know what I mean? It's his equivalent of like in the South, like if he was passing you at the lockers going like that. That's his version of it. I know you're thinking that's absurd. He looks like a squirrel in a suit. But still, yeah.
So again, what you're seeing here is
Dawn's wanting to know, when does the actual voting stop for good? Actually want to know when this ends. Well, I don't think they have the votes tonight. I think the 7 are going to still hold because they're going to want to have a conference. They want the whole weekend to get something in writing or establish something between them and McCarthy that solves this. The problem is, I think somewhere around Sunday afternoon, someone gets wind of the fact that they can't possibly get what they're asking for.
The usual left-right ideological politics at work. But that is not all that is going on. Because actually, most politicians are not very ideological, even the ones who claim to be. They wouldn't know an idea if it got in the shower with them. In fact,
and believe me, Tucker has tried.
A lot of them are agnostic about ideas. But the one...
Again, what the fuck does that mean? And he's talking about Republicans largely. Politicians would know an idea if it got in the shower with them. What a fucked up analogy. Like, can you creep more? And secondly, how are you part of this conversation? What's the use of Tucker Carlson speaking at this point? Like, there never was, but there was at least this kind of like idea of a modulating voice of some sort. Whether you think the bar should be bent this way or bent the other way, at least at some point, the premise is that these voices either bend it one way or the other. This is just fucking flapping.
One thing that every politician has in common, every one of them, is every one of them wants to win elections. That's the goal.
Well, no. Every one of them has to win elections. The losers, like Trump, for example, want to win elections. Carrie Lake still wants to think she won the election. Elected, but they have to win, stupid. It's the only way. There is no other way to get the job. There is no other path. You fucking putz.
And honestly, by that measure, Kevin McCarthy has underwhelmed. The red wave that we were all promised, remember that?
Yeah, by you guys?
It didn't materialize last fall.
Yeah, but in fairness, it's because Republicans have shit candidates, are full of stupid ideas, and even their supporters are starting to get tired of it. It's hardly Kevin McCarthy's fault. I mean, you can't blame it all on a stupid face.
The midterms were a crushing disappointment. Now,
excuse me, just going to enjoy that for a moment. Just let it wash over you. It's like a hypnosis tape, one of those things. Just relax to help you get to sleep at night.
That is not all Kevin McCarthy's fault. If you want to blame a single person, blame Mitch McConnell, who deserves it.
The guy who still has his job, and yeah.
But Kevin McCarthy was the head Republican in the House when that happened, that debacle.
Yeah, but again, hardly a bragging position.
Happened. And he shares responsibility for it. That's true.
Because what? He raised $250 million instead of half, which didn't exist?
But you'd never know that from listening to Republican leaders in Washington. They don't talk about it. They've never atoned.
For what? Trump's candidates that ate shit?
They have no plan to change. They'd like to ignore what happened in November and move on as if everything is fine. That means McConnell continue.
Oh, I see. I didn't know where you're going here for a second. That's just caught me off guard. I wasn't prepared for this at all. So Tucker's basically saying that the Freedom Caucus and the Republican House members at large, the entire caucus, should shut the fuck up, pick a leader because they barely squeaked by anyways, and stop acting like they have a fucking mandate, especially a tiny sliver of them. Is that not what he's saying? Sounds like what he's saying. It's not what he's saying, but it's what he's saying. Do you think he knows it's what he's saying?
Continuing to be minority leader. That means McCarthy as speaker. That means Ronna Romney McDaniel still running the RNC, the same team that was in place 2 months ago. How does that work exactly? If I'm
well, I mean, fish stinks from the head. You know, kill one and two will take its place. I mean, to pick your Hydra analogy.
a valet parker and I crash your car, you don't give me another car to park until I take a driving lesson, right?
Is that the process? I've always wondered. Do we have to watch? Wait a minute. Can I just turn it over to my insurance? Do I have to watch? I mean, isn't it up to the company to fire this guy? Do I have to sit in on driving lessons with this fucker?
Oh, not in Washington.
So in Washington, they don't do that crazy pants idea.
Another car! A more expensive one this time. Because if there's one thing that Washington hates on a bipartisan basis, it's accountability. And
well, if it's bipartisan, then why did the Biden administration, as soon as they get in, put in accountability reviews of the PPP loans for example, and the COVID funding? Why'd they bother? If it's bipartisan, if they equally don't give a shit. Trump didn't do it. The Republicans didn't do it at the time. He didn't order it. That was his position. So Biden did. I think it's just more of our divided politics.
And unfortunately, the Republican Party is no different in that. No one is ever punished for failure or ever forced to explain how the...
Well, if they did, it would just be spankings all day, and we know how much you like that, but I just don't think you'll never get anything else done. And who wants to talk over the sound of that much slapping?
Those failures...
And I do mean schlapping.
...happen. And as a result of that lack of accountability, no one ever improves.
I'm guessing you didn't see the jobs report today. Probably not.
Everybody just keeps getting rewarded for producing the same disasters. Think about that.
Weird. It's almost like how you got your own show. So let me get this right. Your shows get canceled. Mine have all run their course. As a matter of fact, both of them went a year past contract. My big series. Thank you. Thanks for noticing. One we had to even rename. Thanks. Look at that. Siri was grateful or something.
If you raised your kids like that, they'd be in prison.
Or I guess they'd be doing Rumble videos from one of your houses, coked out of their fucking mind. I'm spitballing. I don't know. I'm not thinking of anybody in particular.
So maybe the main thing that's making people mad is that Republican voters see the same people in charge producing the same mediocre results, paying a lot.
Yeah, and never thinking, maybe it's me. Republican voters keep sending Republicans in and then seeing it all fall apart. Maybe I'm the problem.
More attention to lobbyists than to them. That's not democracy, actually. It's the opposite of democracy. And watching this drives them insane. It's
does it? Oh, so maybe the exaggerated emotion before was genuine. Or maybe they were nuts to begin with. I mean, they did vote for Matt Gaetz.
Fair bet that most people don't hate Kevin McCarthy.
I don't know what the over-under is, but I mean, he certainly isn't like.
As a man, he's no Mitch McConnell.
Somebody, 9 for reject. Queers, folk, and lab rats. You're welcome.
Pretty nice guy, actually. But most normal people do hate the system.
Yeah, that's because you don't... First of all, Tucker Carlson doesn't talk to normal people. Tucker Carlson hasn't had a conversation with a normal person that didn't involve just the check in decades. Even the ones that he speaks to when they have little fake town halls and shit around election time are farmed for him specifically for their responses to fit. And if he doesn't feel like it, they push that off on another host. The fuck does this asshole know about normal? He's a Swanson frozen TV dinner millionaire, like prep school boy.
That keeps promoting Kevin McCarthy for turning in a subpar performance.
Yeah, but if you didn't have that as your method, you'd never have Trump as president. I mean, look at his business record, and look at the fact that he got The Apprentice, and look at the fact that you actually watched The Apprentice, or somebody did, and that voted his way, and thought, I believe this.
So say what you will about the effort to prevent McCarthy from becoming speaker, the terrorism, as we're calling it in Washington, is terrorism. That effort has one upside. That effort has challenged the current system in a meaningful way.
No, it hasn't. No, it just made the system recognize that every so often there's a speed bump, and when the system is this sound and this hard to dislodge or destroy, the speed bumps, you don't even notice them unless they can fuck up your undercarriage. So that's just how bad it's gotten on the Republican side.
Kevin McCarthy may in the end become Speaker of the House. He likely will, because no one seems man enough to challenge him directly, so he'll get it by default, and he's trying really hard. So
I don't know. I think MTG is man enough to challenge him, but I just don't think she's had the shot.
Maybe he does deserve it. But
maybe. And that's a rousing endorsement. Just, yeah. The maybes don't make it so.
Here's the critical thing to know. If he does become Speaker, by the time he becomes Speaker, Kevin McCarthy will have learned a lot.
Really? Yes. He'll learn that there are enemies all around him, and that he's going to have to manipulate these fuckers if he wants to get anything done, because 5 of them can kick him out of office.
McCarthy will have publicly acknowledged his failures. He will have been forced to face the people he has disappointed, both.
And Gosar won't? Biggs won't? Are you out of your fucking mind?
Within the Congress and outside of it. And he will have promised to change. So here we will have suffering, accountability, and repentance.
Which is, I think all 3 of those are Tucker's safe word. He has to say them in the right order, or you don't stop.
Those are not bad things. No, those are the best things.
Suffering is the best. It is one of the best things. If I had to make a list of the best things. And by the way, the reason this guy can say that about those 3 words is because he never experiences any of them, and they are like a pretty word picture in his head. Unobstructed by other mental pictures, by the way.
Those are the wrenching life experiences that turn the mediocre into decent people.
Oh, so you're okay. If you wanted proof positive he's never experienced them, there you have it.
And Kevin McCarthy never would have done any of that unless he was forced to. None of us will ever do any of that unless we're forced to.
Well, I mean, I guess, what if you pay for it?
So 20 of Kevin McCarthy's colleagues have forced him to become better. And the rest...
No, they haven't. They forced him to become a belligerent asshole. Like they got their feet dug in. He's not better. He's handing off any power he has. If you're the majority leader, if you're the Speaker of the House, if you're GOP leader, one of the primary things is that you're the one who gets to lead. You don't fucking hand the reins to the bit in your fucking mouth and say, I've never been this much of a leader. Are you fucking stupid? I don't even like the guy, and this is an embarrassing thing to watch. At what point where does leader die at the transition point between negotiating with these assholes? Because I think it must have happened last night. And that's how he got 11 of these fucking people back, including Roy and Perry. It's not leadership. It's not even fellowship. It might be followship. But it just looks like he's a suck-up with no choices. If you want to be the leader, it can only be a title, and we will, this small group, dictate what you can do. This is, I don't know why anybody would sign up. I fucking wouldn't. There is no fucking way if I was running. They're like, we want just 5 of the 220 people here can just decide to call for a vote to kick you out, when you know there's 20 of them on any, in any particular group that would love the role themselves.
Rest of us ought to be very grateful to them for doing it because no one else was going to. Subscribe.
So the they, them, the thems that's out there that have been telling you should be upset, you should be appalled, that he was worried about, fuck that. He is personally telling you that you should be grateful. So shut the fuck up and be grateful because Tucker Carlson told you to be, because Kevin McCarthy is a stronger leader because he's given his power away and he's learned a lot by being a belligerent asshole and digging in even further. And the valuable lesson he's learned is in the Republican Party, if you're an asshole long enough, eventually, if you have the numbers, they'll follow you, whether you deserve it or not. Just fucking pathetic.